Could Assassin's Creed Valhalla be the RPG that Odyssey could never be? This is a question that's been flowing around my brain ever since we found out that Assassin's Creed Valhalla will indeed be an RPG. And while at first that kind of concerned me considering how I felt about Assassin's Creed Odyssey, I realised that Odyssey in itself as an Assassin's Creed RPG was doomed to fail on that front, as it has absolutely no Assassin's Creed elements whatsoever, besides from nonsensical plot holes in the DLCs. It appears as if Assassin's Creed Valhalla is immediately going to rectify the lack of Assassin's Creed elements by actually having Assassin's Creed elements. Which among other things has spurred me to ask, could Valhalla be what Odyssey could not be? I know it sounds like it doesn't make too much sense, but it makes perfect sense to me. Now I know as of recording this video we haven't actually seen gameplay yet, but we don't need to see gameplay to see two different approaches to the Assassin's Creed brand made by the Ubisoft Quebec team for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and the approach presented for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. A tweet made by Luma helped make this very clear to me. On the one hand, you've got what was said after Assassin's Creed Odyssey was announced. When asked about any potential concerns or worries about leaving the original Assassin's Creed fans behind, they were incredibly dismissive and assumed that the old Assassin's Creed fans had moved on, effectively saying that if they leave a few people behind to hit the mainstream, it's fine. To be fair, not even effectively, they just outright said it. No matter how you observe that, you may see it differently. To me, I think it's quite clear it represents an attitude that could very easily alienate fans. And believe me when I say it did. I mean, you don't even need to take my word for it, some of you are already in that boat. If you liked Odyssey, that's fine, that's chill, don't worry about it. But from a factual standpoint, a lot of old Assassin's Creed fans felt completely dismissed by Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And a lot of the problem here has arisen from Odyssey essentially not caring about Assassin's Creed, just wanting to go full RPG. Now there are 15 different studios working on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, of which Quebec is actually one of them. I do however get the vibe their role isn't particularly huge. When Darby McDevitt, the narrative director, was asked, how do you respond to a change in player expectation since Assassin's Creed is vastly changed from its old formula? It may read like a different question, but it is relatively similar. Darby said this: the first thing you do is you go and soak in the last couple of years of what fans have said, casual fans and hardcore fans, new fans and old fans. You soak in all that and you try to see what the conversations are. We have our own things we love about the brand, things we love to do with it. We take all that together and we try to say, here are the new features that we have to play with. We definitely want to play with multiple dialogue options, we want to play with branching paths, but how do we do that in a way that respects what's come before? Ashraf Ismail and I did a lot of thinking on how we can leverage all the Assassin's Creed lore to do things that keep the games current and keep them within this new genus. Origins is like a new feeling for Assassin's Creed, but how do we make all those decisions actually fit in the lore that's been established so that the old-time fans aren't just satisfied, but impressed by the things we've done? I think we've managed it pretty well. Now there's a huge difference in those two approaches. When Odyssey was being made, there was no regard for old-time Assassin's Creed fans, at least none that we could see. And I mean, how could there be? The result was a game that didn't appear to even want to be Assassin's Creed. The approach for Valhalla appears to respect old Assassin's Creed fans, but at the same time it respects this RPG format that Assassin's Creed has somehow stumbled its way into. That's the main thing done and out the way. Now I have faith in Assassin's Creed Valhalla respecting Assassin's Creed, but I also respect and trust that they don't want to alienate anyone else either. Meaning not necessarily that they want to find a compromise, meaning that they want to find a way to make the best of both Assassin's Creed and the RPG genre work. Now let's talk about the RPG aspect. Now if you look at Assassin's Creed Origins, it's one example of how an RPG could work with Assassin's Creed elements, sure, but Assassin's Creed Valhalla is going to have dialogue options and it's probably going to have branching paths as mentioned by Darby McDevitt, meaning that the closest Assassin's Creed game there is to compare it to is unfortunately Odyssey. The other part of my problem with Assassin's Creed Odyssey was the RPG elements were so clearly used as a laziness excuse. There are a lot of quests in this game, sure, there's a massive open world, but it's empty and those quests feel incredibly uninspired. When playing this game, I don't feel a part of this world, there's no immersion, it's not a role-playing game. Sure, it pretends to be, but the simplest way to put it is it just doesn't pretend to be it very well. Now, while I'd say that Assassin's Creed Origins also suffered from uninspired side content at some times, side content and how that's going to be executed hasn't really been something that's been touched down upon. However, in Valhalla we know that we will be able to grow our own settlement, which is a way to tether us to the world all the same, and that we will be able to customize and upgrade the settlement and unlock new side quests and things as we do. So maybe there'll be characters that we can come to care about in the side content and not just necessarily the main story. While I would argue that there are a few Assassin's Creed Origins side quests that are definitely lacking, there are a lot that I look back on and go, hey, that was memorable. I quite like that. When you realise that the game director for Assassin's Creed Origins is now the creative director for Valhalla, it makes you think maybe these are the things that will likely be improved. So for the sake of confidence, we'll say no more about that one. However, if there is one RPG element that Assassin's Creed Odyssey definitely didn't do well, it was the protagonist. Odyssey is marketed as it's your Odyssey. You are the protagonist. So you go into this world with a character who does have a preset personality but also does not. You can make decisions and they can be vastly different from one another, but there's no consequence to any of it. So one moment you can be really unreasonable and angry and you can kill someone for the sake of it. The next you can do whatever, and these different decisions feel like different characters. So what you wind up with is a character who feels absolutely, totally and utterly bipolar. My point being, the protagonist is not incredibly well thought out. With Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Darby McDevitt gets it. He's addressed how they can give the player choices in dialogue, choices in decisions, while keeping it consistent with the protagonist and their preset personality. He had this to say: "It was very important for us to create a coherent personality. I always find there are two ways to go with a role-playing game where you get dialogue choices. You either get to be a blank slate and you create your character, which is one way of doing it. Your choices decide whether you're a wise-cracking character or a stoic. Or you have a distinct personality and your choices orbit in the spectrum of possible responses. They take the drama in different directions, but the character remains coherent. We opted for the latter. We really wanted a coherent personality that people can say, that is definitely Eivor. That is something that Eivor would say. We don't want players to have multiple different types of Eivor. That was a creative decision we made and it worked out really well." So that protagonist problem that Odyssey suffered from seems like it won't be making a comeback in Valhalla. Instead, they will have a coherent personality, as Darby puts it. Another key thing for RPGs is immersion content. Content there purely to consume that doesn't necessarily add to anything, but it does make you feel more rooted in the world. On Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Valhalla webpage, it says, "A dark age open world. Sail across the icy North Sea to discover and conquer the broken kingdoms of England. Immerse yourself in activities like hunting and drinking games, or engage in traditional Norse competitions like flighting, or as it's better known, verbally devastating rivals through the art of a Viking rap battle." And then there are activities such as raids. Then of course there's the settlement, which we've already spoken about, and I'm sure there's plenty more that's not quite been mentioned on this website just yet, which makes me think that this game won't lack for immersion activities, and immersion activities are crucial to the role-playing aspects of any RPG. When it comes to the leveling front, few games have handled it worse than Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Sure, at times Origins had a somewhat steep leveling curve, but this was just outright ridiculous. Quests would yield a lot of XP, sure, but you'd still need to do 6 or 7 of them to get anywhere near leveling up. It sure doesn't help that most of the side quests in this game were not worth doing. There was no leveling curve in Odyssey, it was just a vertical straight line. The leveling system was done in this harsh way to push microtransactions, which is absurd for a single player RPG, but that's the time we live in. And even with them, the balance in the leveling system was the worst that I've ever seen. And I mean that in any game ever. Now, it's not impossible to balance a leveling system to make it feel a bit more natural. I recently played through Horizon Zero Dawn and that game handles the linear numerical leveling system quite well. But Ashraf Ismail has explained that Assassin's Creed Valhalla prioritizes a power system over a numerical level system, which takes into account your skills and your gear, which is more akin to what they did with Assassin's Creed Unity. Or at least that's how I interpreted it. So the more skills you gain through getting skill points, likely through finishing missions, whether they be side missions or main missions, and the better equipment that you find or buy and equip will contribute to a higher power level, which also in theory should put an end to the unnatural, you cannot equip this because it's too high a level for you, because that makes no sense and feels completely unnatural even in the best RPGs like The Witcher 3. So I'm 100% down for seeing a power level system as opposed to a numerical leveling system, which by the way Assassin's Creed Odyssey completely abused. I know for sure it will make the experience feel a lot less steep, unless they introduce like a weapon upgrade system which is similar to Assassin's Creed Odyssey's, in which it costs more metal than it does to build the foundations for a skyscraper to upgrade a sword. But with Ashraf Ismail at the helm, I'm sure that they won't be doing something silly like that. So we've spoken about how Assassin's Creed Valhalla can be the Assassin's Creed RPG that Odyssey could never be, and we've tackled it from the perspectives of Assassin's Creed and the RPG as a genre, albeit very briefly, even still. But I think to answer the question, Could Assassin's Creed Valhalla be the Assassin's Creed RPG that Odyssey couldn't be? I think, yeah, it could very well be. But I'm sure there are loads and loads and loads and loads of arguments that you could have, whether it be for or against this. So you'll have to let me know what you think down in the comments section. So, thank you all for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends and all that wonderful stuff. That would be fantastic. There is a lot of information already out about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but we are still yet to see any gameplay. However, gameplay isn't far off now. It is on the 7th of May, which is 2 days away as of recording this video, so we'll find out more about this game very soon. But I suppose for now I'll see you all very soon with another video at some point, but until then, goodbye.